Welcome back, you guys. Kick back and relax as we dive into another episode of Skip to Saturday. Hey, you guys. I hope you are having a terrific week so far. Thank you so much for joining me. We all crave healthy love, right? I think I can speak for the most of the population. I could be wrong, but I just hope that a majority of the people on this earth crave that love. But what does it really look like beyond the fairy tales, what you see in movies and TV shows, and the grand gestures on social media? Like, what does healthy love actually look like? And some of you are probably questioning your current relationship. Is this actually a healthy relationship or am I just settling? So, in today's episode, I'm going to lay some of the groundwork for understanding true connection. And what I'll be covering in this episode is going to be defining healthy connections. That'll be the number one thing. And then moving on to sharing some of the myths about healthy connections and the reality of those myths. Throughout today's episode, I will offer micro challenges for you guys to do and a journal prompt to work on. I'll share key signs of when a relationship isn't right, even if nothing is wrong, knowing when to reevaluate your relationship. And before I wrap up the episode, I will share some real life stories from married couples about when they knew they had found the one. This is such an important conversation to have no matter where you are in life, whether you're in a relationship, married, single, going through a divorce, or in a situationship, whatever the case may be. Understanding these dynamics is really important for your personal well-being. And, maybe it can help avoid some heartbreak in some cases. My goal for today is to equip you guys with clarity and tools for discernment and empowerment. So let's get started. So what does healthy love look and feel like? Okay, there's trust and safety there. It feels safe to be vulnerable. You trust their intentions and their actions generally align with their words. It's a whole different story if, they are love bombing you and saying all these beautiful things, but their actions don't align with what they're saying. That's always a red flag for me. When you're with them, you feel a sense of peace and calm. And even during the chaotic times in your life, that peace and safety remains. There's security and stability, knowing that you have a reliable partner. That's really, really important. There's respect and admiration for one another. You respect each other's opinions, boundaries, and individuality. And you genuinely admire, qualities in them. When you look at your partner, you should feel like, I want to be a little bit like them, or I really admire how generous they are, or how kind and compassionate or patient they are. All those things, like you should at least be able to list 5 of them in your partner, in my opinion. Okay, some people will be like, no, I think a good number is 10. And some people will be like, 1 or 2 is good enough for me. So it really comes down to your personal perspective on that. But I personally feel like you should at least have 5 qualities that you admire in your partner. Being with them should feel like an expansion more than anything else, like you're growing and thriving together. Authenticity and acceptance is present in that relationship. You feel truly seen and accepted for who you are without needing to pretend or hide parts of yourself. Love is being able to be yourself and not have to worry about what they're going to think or say. This is so important. It's about feeling safe to be vulnerable, imperfect, and having the room to express your true self without the fear of judgment, ridicule, or with them withdrawing from you because they don't like parts of you. You have the freedom to be yourself, to pursue your dreams and express your needs without having to worry about what your partner is going to say or think. Between the two of you, there is support and encouragement. This is foundational. You uplift one another, you celebrate each other's successes, and you're supportive through the challenges as well. Some people aren't capable of this, unfortunately. They're there for the good times. But when times get tough, they check out. So that's something that you should pay attention to. Basically, you guys are each other's cheerleaders. I also want to note that this doesn't mean that you neglect yourself or others in your life. You have to have that balance, a healthy balance where you're showing up not only for everyone in your life, but for yourself as well. When you are genuinely supporting someone and encouraging them, it feels like a whole lot of fun and joy. That's the feeling that you should get. It shouldn't feel like it's forced, or you shouldn't feel like you have to put up this front to show your support or encouragement. Like, it should, from the inside, feel like a lot of joy and fun and lightness and laughter. Open and honest communication is another one that's very key. And there's also a level of understanding here as well. You should be able to talk to your partner about anything, even the difficult things, with a reasonable expectation of being heard and understood. They should demonstrate empathy, validation, active listening, and willingness to understand. Because when you show up for your partner like this, right, you are telling them that everything's going to be okay. I'm here for you. How can I support you? There's no room for judgment here. They show compassion. And the reason why I said there has to be a level of understanding here with communication is because sometimes when you're having a conversation, a person will hear you, but they won't understand where you're coming from. In these cases, you have to understand that you both need to bridge the gap between what you're saying and what they're understanding to get your point across in a healthy manner. And if there's conflict, you guys should be able to manage it constructively. And what that means is that you're both facing the issue head on with respect. And I'll give you guys an example here. Instead of avoiding the awkward conversations about finances or whatever it may be, you both sit down and create a budget, okay? Instead of letting resentment build from miscommunication, there is a direct and calm conversation that takes place. And another example I could give you is that like both partners feel safe to talk about past traumas, which is really, really hard to do for some people, family dynamics, politics, or even uncomfortable sexual desires, which gets brushed under the rug, I feel like. But they're able to have all these conversations knowing that their partner will listen and engage and not run or shut down. Empathy and compassion are present in your guys' partnership. This is an extension of open and honest communication. You genuinely care about each other's feelings and well-being, especially during times of hurt or struggle. I don't think a lot of people can show compassion or empathy. I think we probably know one person at least that can't show empathy or doesn't have compassion. So what this looks like in a partnership is that if they are talking about the same thing over and over again, right? Because this is how they are processing their emotions or they're trying to make sense of things, you actively listen. And it's not about, oh my God, here she goes again, or oh my God, here he goes again about the same thing. I've heard it about 100 times. No, you show up, you listen, and you understand that they are struggling with whatever it is. And they might just need me to listen to them, So yeah, it's very crucial to have empathy and compassion in your partnership. And it is a two-way street. It's not just one person always showing up with empathy and compassion. You guys have shared values and vision. It's not identical, but it's aligned. You generally agree on core life values, family, finances, the future, and you guys are both working towards a compatible future. Here's the thing. You are not going to agree on everything all the time, but when you look at the bigger picture and you can agree on what that looks like, then that's a good sign. I've heard some relationship experts say that, like, while hobbies can differ, right? Having your guys' core values align is a cornerstone for long-term compatibilities. So yeah, it's okay if you guys aren't agreeing with everything, but the main stuff, you should definitely be on the same page about that. And the last one is independence with connection. And what that means is that you maintain your individuality, friendships, and hobbies outside of the relationship. When you two are apart, you still feel secure in your connection. I know some people will lose themselves by giving their all to their partner and their relationship. And sometimes if that relationship does come to an end, then the person that had made their entire life revolve around their partner, they don't know what to do with themselves. they don't know who they are outside of that relationship. So it's so important not to lose yourself in a relationship. Love your person, but don't forget to love yourself either and take care of yourself. And this also goes back to the point about having support and encouragement. So that was, in my own words, what healthy love looks and feels like. So this is a micro challenge I want you guys to try this week. I challenge you to identify and acknowledge one specific way your partner or a close loved one, if you're not currently in a romantic relationship, demonstrates one of these healthy love principles. Okay, maybe they truly listened or they supported a goal of yours. And I want you to tell them that you noticed it. I feel like this is a really powerful exercise for you guys to do. So please do it. I feel like a teacher now. Please do it. All right, so I'm going to share some myths about what love should look and feel like. Some of these myths are based on what we grew up learning or seeing, whether it's on TV or what was modeled for us in our families. And then there is a reality of what healthy love really looks and feels like. I used to think that in love, you never argued, but that's not true. So I'm going to share some of these myths people have about healthy relationships and love and the reality of it. The first myth is healthy couples never argue or have conflict. The reality is healthy couples do have disagreements, but they approach them constructively, listen to one another, and they prioritize repairing the relationship over winning. Dr. John Gottman, I hope I'm saying his last name right. For those of you who don't know who he is a prominent American clinical psychologist, world renowned for his extensive long-term scientific research on marital stability and divorce prediction. His research shows that it's how you fight, not if you fight, that predicts the success of that partnership. The second myth is your partner should complete you. The reality is a healthy partner complements you. They're bringing out your best qualities and supporting your growth. They don't fill a void. Okay, they enhance your already whole self. You guys are partners on this journey, not two halves trying to make one whole. So keep that in mind. And the third myth I have for you guys, love is always intense passion and excitement. While that's amazing, the reality is passion is important, but at the same time, healthy love is wrapped into a calm, consistent affection, companionship, and shared purpose. The butterflies that everyone talks about when they first meet someone they're into evolve into a profound sense of peace and security. I'm pretty sure there's probably more myths out there. I just did the first 3 that I could think of. I would love to hear your guys' myths about love and healthy connections. You can DM me if you guys want to. Now that I've gone over what healthy love looks and feels like, I'm going to go over some of the signs that a relationship might be off track, even if nothing is wrong. And these are usually subtle and sometimes confusing, more quiet. Here are 15 signs a relationship isn't right, even if nothing is wrong. First one, your goals for the future don't align. Sometimes it's not that your goals are different, but that your core values or life aspirations have grown so far apart that it creates a big gap between the two of you over time. The second sign is that you regularly find yourself more interested in talking to other people or spending time with them instead of your partner. It's a subtle but very powerful indicator that the core emotional and intellectual needs aren't being met within the relationship, leading to, seeking fulfillment outside of that partnership. Number 3, you frequently disagree on important topics and you don't hear each other's side. Putting disagreeing off to the side, it's a serious problem where one or both people have stopped listening to one another or even understanding and trying to see things from the other person's point of view. You've grown significantly since you met, but they haven't. This is growing apart versus growing together, obviously. When one person grows a lot faster than the other, whether it's in their personal life, their interests, or their emotions, they can end up on completely different paths, making them feel distant from one another. You don't care enough to argue or discuss issues in the relationship. Sometimes the biggest problem isn't fighting, but simply not caring anymore. This lack of interest shows that you've lost emotional connection with this person and given up. You don't miss them when you're apart. It's a simple yet profound indicator of emotional distance or a lack of genuine longing for their presence. They don't cheer you on for your personal goals. You don't feel like you're on the same team. They're showing you a lack of genuine support, enthusiasm, and maybe even undermining the stuff that you want to do for yourself. You find yourself being really nervous when you have to bring up an important topic. This indicates that there is a lack of psychological safety, fear of conflict, even like anticipation of a negative or a dismissive reaction from your partner. And this shuts down true intimacy. Like you should not feel afraid or nervous to bring up important things to your partner. You feel drained or in a bad mood after spending extended periods of time with them. Relationships should ideally energize and uplift you, not deplete your emotional or physical reserves. Like if that is happening, that is a red flag. Your body will reject the person that's not for you. You know, just like your intuition is so powerful, and some of you make decisions based on what you feel in your gut. Physical sensations are also powerful indicators that, you know, the alignment is off. It's just the body's way of telling you, like, this is not compatible. You oftentimes think about what it would be like to be single or date someone else. This is a big one. Okay, if this is happening frequently or the thoughts are persistent, this would mean that, you know, there is a deep-seated dissatisfaction and a yearning for something different. There is an ongoing lack of intimacy, physical and emotional. It's not enough to have physical touch. Okay, a relationship also needs deep emotional connection, okay, where you can be open and vulnerable with one another. A relationship can't truly grow without both. You start feeling irritated, you know, you get the ick by most of the things that they say and do. So if a relationship's foundation, like respect and affection, starts to wear away, small things that never used to bother you can become huge and overwhelming. And those icks will feel like they're everywhere. Like every little thing that they do is going to start to feel like an ick. They aren't the first person you want to go to with good or bad news. For me, I feel like that is a huge indicator that something is really, really off. You know, if this is something that you experience or have experienced, it just shows that there's a fundamental lack of primary emotional support and trust there. If you are turning to others instead of your partner for celebration or comfort, that's a huge red flag for me personally. And the last one is that you feel like they're getting in the way of holding you back from the life that you want. You know, the relationship starts to feel like it's holding you back from your goals, whether that's in your career or your friendships or becoming the person that you want to be. So those were the 15 signs of when a relationship isn't right, even if nothing is wrong. Before I move on, here's a little micro challenge for you guys who are in a relationship. This week, gently observe one specific not right sign that resonated with you. Just notice it without judgment or immediate action. This is about building awareness, okay? So get on that if you are in a relationship. If you're not in a relationship, what you can do is reflect on your previous relationship and see if there were any not right signs that you can point out. It will help you moving forward because some of these are very, very subtle and sometimes we overlook them, but they are serious signs of, okay, there is a misalignment in our partnership and it needs work. So if some of these key signs were resonating with you, don't freak out, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship is over. Take this as an opportunity for clarity and potential growth. So I feel like, you know, if you want to get your relationship back on track, you know, close that gap between the two of you, the first step is to always communicate. I feel like I'm a therapist now, but I'm not. You want to make sure that when you're having this conversation that it's not happening while you're sitting on the toilet or heading out of the house or while you're getting ready to go to some big event. You know, there's a time and place for everything. So choosing the right time, setting, and creating a safe space and the mindset to have these type of conversations is very crucial. And when you do sit down and talk about what you want, where you feel unfulfilled, and what needs work in the relationship, try to refrain from making your partner feel like they're being attacked. The best way to approach something that's sensitive is by using I statements. Remember how I said I feel like a therapist? This is it, you guys. This is what you learn in therapy. I'm offering it to you for free. So here's some examples. I feel X when Y happens. Or I need ... explain what you need. By doing this, right, you're focusing on your experiences, then making an accusation. And this helps fostering understanding. And their response will be everything that you'll need to know, whether the relationship can be saved or if it's worth saving. If they're willing to listen, understand, empathize, and engage in problem solving or change, then there's potential for the relationship to adapt and grow. And if they're not, then you've got some serious thinking to do about your future. I do want to say that no matter how hard you try, sometimes relationships can't be saved. There's a therapist by the name of Nedra Glover Twab. Again, I feel like I'm butchering these professionals' last names, so I do apologize. You may have heard of her. Her work not only focuses on mental health, but she's also a relationship and boundaries expert. She said, sometimes broken relationships cannot be mended because mending them would mean accepting less than you deserve, not having your needs met, or being inauthentic to get along. Forcing broken relationships can be a betrayal of self. Sometimes that's a harsh truth. You can try and put all your effort into making something work, but at the end of the day, not all connections are sustainable or healthy. You shouldn't compromise your mental well-being, your core needs and values just to be with somebody or to avoid discomfort and or loneliness. I just don't think it's fair to you. There are so many people in the world that can give you what you need. So don't settle. Now I'm going to give you guys even more work. So you've got all this knowledge about healthy love, right? Let's put it into practice. Listening and understanding to what I'm saying is one thing, but putting all of this knowledge into practice is what's going to help at the end of the day. So the first portion of this is going to be just for you. And the second part is going to be for all of you who are in a relationship. So the first one is a journaling prompt. You can journal and ask yourself these questions for a deeper insight of what needs a little bit more work. You don't have to write paragraphs, you guys. Just a few sentences will do if you're not really into journaling. So here are some of the questions that you can ask yourself. What does feeling at home truly mean to me in a relationship? What are my non-negotiables in a partnership? Am I showing up authentically in my current relationship or am I wearing a mask? When do I feel most energized or drained in my relationship? What's one hard conversation I need to have and how can I prepare for it? And the last one, am I actively cheering on my partner's goals and are they cheering on mine? The second part is a relationship check-in exercise. I think it's very beneficial to have like regular low pressure check-ins with your partner once a week, once a month. It doesn't have to be every single day, okay? That can be a little overwhelming for some people. I would say, once a week is a good compromise and that does not allow for a whole lot of time to go by before the next check-in. My personal opinion, you guys, you could do what feels right for you. And when you do these exercises, ask open-ended questions because that's going to be very helpful and it's going to allow you to get better results. So some of the questions that you can ask are, what's one thing I can do to support you better this week? What's one thing you're really enjoying about us right now? And the last one, is there anything on your mind about our relationship that you'd like to share? Now, if you guys don't know this by now, I'm a big believer in counseling and therapy. I know some people are against it or they really don't know how to feel about it because they don't know what to expect. And I get that. It can be scary going to your first session. But mind you, a counselor or a therapist is not there to attack you. They're there to help you. Therapy is a tool for you, okay? It's there to help you better understand yourself and the issues that are coming up in your relationship. And it's a safe space for you and your partner to talk about things that probably wouldn't go so well if there wasn't a neutral third party there. Sometimes people just need someone there to help navigate the conversation or the feelings that maybe they're struggling to express. So if communication breaks down in your relationship, patterns are being repeated, or you're struggling to navigate other things, therapy is a good way to resolve stuff and, get clarity and understand where the misalignment is if you guys can't figure it out on your own. And I do want to mention that, seeking help is not a sign of weakness, you guys. It just shows a lot of strength and commitment to your well-being. This is a fun part for me because I love sharing stories with you guys. So to bring this all home, I'm going to read some stories from married couples who share the moment when they truly knew their partner was the one. I've got a whole bunch of them and they're all so beautiful. First, I'll share stories from married women and then I'll share some stories from married men. Okay, here we go. I want to offer my perspective, but I'm also saying you are the only one who can decide. I was dating someone 3+ years who was great on paper, a really good person with an amazing family, and was a stable person. Coming from an abusive childhood and background, I thought this was all I needed, a good person. I remember talking to 2 women at work who were happily married, still are, and telling me what amazing feeling it is when you know this is who you are going to marry. I burst into tears. I didn't have that feeling at all. And of course, blamed it on me not being able to trust my own gut instinct because of my abusive upbringing and family. Now, years later, me marrying him, despite my instinct telling me no, is my biggest regret. It caused me a lot of pain, heartache, living unauthentically, and ultimately ended in divorce. I am remarried, and even though things are not perfect and have their own faults, I love him dearly, and I'm not filled with doubt and despair I once was. Hope I could give you a little insight. When he asked me to start bringing my 4-year-old on our dates so he could get to know him. Married him 11 months later, and that was 23 years ago. Damn. I knew my husband was the one for me before we even started dating. I knew it like it was something I had always known and was just waiting for. There is one other sign that is a little more easy to describe. He feels like home to me. The next one. He accepts the parts of me that he doesn't understand, and that is hugely important. I had a close guy friend I considered dating, and he always said he understood me 100%. It felt nice at the time, but later I realized it meant that when I did something he didn't agree with, he would mansplain my actions and basically say I was just being a bitch. To simplify, your guy may not understand why that shirt is so important to you, but if he buys it for you anyway, he's probably a good guy. On a larger scale, my husband moved halfway across the country, away from both of our families, because we knew it would make me happy. He didn't get 100% why that would make me happy, but it did, and that was worth it to him. One weekend, my boyfriend asked if he could come over after work. I was a single mom at the time, and it had been a very long week. Between work and my kids absolutely steamrolling me, my house was a disaster. I hesitated and then told him he could, but he was going to have to excuse my house because there was no way I was going to get it completely straightened out before he got there. He told me not to worry about it. I managed to get most of my house looking like humans lived in it again by the time he texted me he was on his way. But my kitchen was still a huge mess, and I apologized for it. He got out of the car with a bottle of wine in hand and didn't bat an eye when he went into the kitchen to pour me a glass. He handed me the glass of wine, picked me up, sat me on the kitchen counter, then proceeded to clean my kitchen. He washed my dishes, wiped down the counters, swept and mopped, refusing to let me help. I tried to protest multiple times, but he insisted that it was no big deal and asked what good he was if he couldn't help relieve some of my stress. I quietly cried into my wine while I watched him clean and thought, I'm going to marry this man. I did exactly that 2 years later. We've been long distance for most of our relationship. One time, I had a really bad day at work. He called me when I was finished and told me to walk to a place 5 minutes away. I was due to get on the train to go home, so I was confused. I went anyway, out of curiosity. I called him back, asking what I was meant to be looking for. He told me to turn around, and lo and behold, he was stood behind me. I had been having such a terrible week, so unbeknown to me. He had spoken to his boss and taken the afternoon off work. He drove 3 hours out of his way just to come and give me a hug. We had dinner together, and then he had to drive home. I was so overwhelmed by how thoughtful it was that I cried. I knew from that day that I wanted to marry him. We got engaged in November, and I consider myself very lucky. And here's the last one from the married woman. I never had a clear vision of what my love should look like, but my soul always knew who he was. For as long as I can remember, there was this dream, a reoccurring glimpse of me, wrapped in warmth and happiness, standing beside someone. His face was always blurred, but that feeling was unmistakable. Pure, deep, unshakable joy. I dated, I loved, I gave. But that happiness, I never felt it with anyone. I always knew they were just chapters in my story, yet I still gave them my all. The last one, especially, I poured everything into him, desperately wanting him to be the one, even when I knew in my heart that he wasn't. After years of back and forth, I finally closed that chapter. And when I did, it felt like the walls of my life were crumbling around me. I was exhausted, disillusioned, done. And then he arrived. I have never been the kind to surrender in love. I held my ground, I built my walls, I made sure I was never lost in someone else. But from the moment he stepped into my life, something in me let go. It wasn't planned, it wasn't logical, it was. When we met, everything clicked. My soul danced, my heart exhaled, and for the first time in my life, I knew. And that dream, the one I had carried for so long, the one that was once a whisper of something I didn't fully understand, it never came back because I no longer needed it. My dream had turned into reality. I never told him about it before, but the moment it happened, I knew. It's him. And when you know, you just know. All right, so now I'm going to share some stories from married men. It was simple for me. I didn't want to be the other guy. I didn't want to see her deep into her career in some amazing home, playing with her kids, and just living her life with some guy. I needed that guy to be me. She was too amazing, and I wanted to be near her forever. It was a time for being mildly selfish. It hit me hard one day out of the blue that it was up to me to be that guy in that future. Proposed the next day, 13 years of marriage, and 2 kids later, I am that guy. How cute. She captivated me. I was thrown off balance by her spirit and vivaciousness. She cares for me every day and makes me want to be a better person. I love her so dearly and completely. Before meeting my wife, I remember dating women, and in my mind, I would constantly rehearse how I hoped conversations would go. I was always concerned about trying to act a certain way. When I met my wife at a party, we just clicked. Conversations were natural, and I was 100% myself. No fear of being goofy or nerdy, which I really am. When I moved back home when my father passed away, I recall my mother asking, "What in God's name do you two talk about? All you do is laugh nonstop." My mother was extremely happy, seeing how I was in a very toxic relationship during high school. My friends noticed that my personality was greatly improved. One of my female friends pulled my girlfriend aside and said to her, "You are exactly what he's been looking for." I know because my friend told me she said it. I agreed with her 100%. After 4 months of dating, we moved out together. After 11 months of dating, we got engaged. And then after a year and a half later, we were married. Now we have 2 kids and are going to celebrate 15 years of marriage next month. She had that aura of calmness, intelligence, and being fully aware of everything. That is extremely rare in both men and women. She blindly supported me and made me want to be the best version of myself. We also have an unbelievable amount of fun together, and nothing makes me happier than seeing her happy. I also like her boobs. When I couldn't imagine what it would be like to not be with her and to have her in my life, that's when I knew. Been married 33 years so far. Wow, that's amazing. When we started dating, I didn't have a job and was so poor, my bedroom furniture was a bunch of old avocado crates that some fruit vendors had abandoned in the streets. She didn't care, and we lived in a country where everyone would care about that, and a lot. When I was looking for work, she'd wake me up at 4 a.m. and iron my suit before interviews and make me breakfast. I didn't ask her to do this, nor did I expect her to. No one had ever done anything so thoughtful for me before. She even printed my resumes on flyers and passed them out to hundreds of people in her social network. We traveled around the country and never had one fight while we were traveling. One day, while taking the bus, I thought, are there any cons at all to staying with this person? I couldn't find any, so I asked her to marry me shortly after. Of course, we had fights like any other couple, but she is definitely my person. Been happily married for about a decade. When I felt her care and love when I would open up about depression, anxiety, insecurities, and my fears. No judgment from her, only love, compassion, and patience. She made me feel safe and cared for just being present with me. Never tried to fix me, but showed me she would always be in my corner to cheer me on. She helped me discover the missing puzzle pieces of my being. She kept me tethered to earth when I felt like I was floating away. She loved me unconditionally and as a human. I felt seen, heard, and understood. Something I never really felt. Even when I'd take on a new project or hobby, she never faltered. 8 years later, a house, 2 dogs, 2 cats, 1 3-year-old, and another on the way. I've never been so at peace and proud of my reality. I'm in no way perfect, but she makes me realize it's a beautiful thing to be imperfect and driven to grow. Love you, Boop. That was so cute. My now wife was the only one I wanted to be around. I had to be reminded that I had other friends. Her presence makes me happy, and I'm always a better person when I'm with her. That's so sweet. She walked into a restaurant where I was eating with my friends. I took one look and it knocked the wind out of me. If you don't believe in love at first sight, I'm here to tell you it's real. It doesn't take all day to recognize sunshine. Been together for 30 years now. Wow, that's powerful. It was that smile. Not a big toothy grin or a laughing smile, but a slight smile that she had when she was content. It was like seeing light for the first time, like a drink of water after a lifetime in the desert. She made me feel safe and happy with who I was. I no longer thought about it was us. She wasn't an extension of myself. She was a part of me I didn't know was missing. And here's the last one. I knew in high school. I know that's rare. 33 years later, we are still together and I still feel the same exact way. Often I will look at her in the kitchen or sitting on the couch and just feel love. These stories beautifully illustrate that knowing looks different for everyone. And also note that none of these stories revolved around grand gestures or expensive gifts or vacations, you know? They didn't need any of that to know that they were with the right person. And ultimately, these things shouldn't be the reason why you are with the person either, right? With all of these stories, there was a common thread that I found, and that was the feeling of ease, home, acceptance, a future that they genuinely desired, calmness, support and encouragement. And those are all the stuff that I talked about earlier in the episode about defining healthy love and what that should feel and look like to you. I hope these stories were really inspiring because they were for me. I hope this episode was really insightful for you guys. It's so important to understand what healthy love looks like and what it feels like, whether you're in a relationship or single. And to sum it up for you guys, healthy love is defined by trust, respect, authenticity, support, and open communication. It feels peaceful, expansive, and safe. You all deserve a love that feels like home, that allows you to be your authentic self, and that supports your highest good, honestly. I encourage all of you guys to use the journaling prompts and do some of the micro challenges this week. I'll post them on the Skip to Saturday Instagram page so you can revert back to them if you need to. Please share this episode with a friend or a loved one who might benefit from this powerful conversation. That's the end for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you guys could leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I would greatly appreciate it. But if you guys don't want to, that's okay as well. Keep cultivating connections that truly make your heart feel at home. And don't forget to tune in next Thursday for an all-new episode. Take care of yourselves.